Hello and welcome to the post-match reaction to the Highlanders versus the Reds in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. Yay! Finally, we are here. We have got the Trans-Tasman competition underway with the Reds taking on the travelling over to the Highlanders. Look, there's going to be a whole bunch of fallout from this. Let's be honest, that's the Highlanders got a comfortable win, fourth in the NZ competition, or Super Rugby Aotearoa, beating number one in Australia. Look at how much better the New Zealand teams are than the Australian teams. Now, look, you've got to say the scheduling for this game was absolutely appalling. We knew all along that the Reds and the Brumbies would be in that Super Rugby AU final. Those two teams should have had home games this weekend. Also, the Reds have just accomplished last weekend a thing that they've been looking forward to for about 4 years now with Brad Thorne, I think it is, getting to that final and winning. Last year, remember, they got to the final and lost. So obviously there's been some celebration. They have only had a short turnaround then, Saturday to Friday. The Highlanders had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. And I think you saw that in the tactics and the play, didn't you, Ashwin?
Yeah, I think so. But I think you're being a bit kind to the Reds as well. Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, they had the big final last week. As you've alluded to, it was a big build-up in terms of, it's something they've been trying to achieve, a plan that they've had for a while. But at the end of the day, they knew that this game was coming too. So, if you want to tune in tomorrow when you'll see a team that won a final last week as well, are they going to take the foot off the throat? They're going to be out there full throttle. They won't be using the fact that they won a final and celebrated. Yeah, sure, they probably don't need to celebrate because they're celebrating every year, unlike every other team.
It's just another game for them. They do it every year, don't
just
they?
Another game. But at the end of the day, they're still going to basically be there and ready, right? So at the end of the day, they knew the game was coming. I think, as I always do, racing right ahead to the end of the game. I actually feel like the Reds' plan was, we'll put the young fellas on because we had the final last week. You've got Siliko Lotu, Teliala Tupo, Sarevi on the bench. We'll be in touch with in the second half with 30 minutes left, and we'll bring them on, and we'll be able to come home with the old wet sail. But they just never were in touch. Even though the scoreline, with 20 to go, they were only two tries behind, but it really blew out in their last 20.
Yeah, it did. And good evening, Bella. Been a while since we've had you on the show, but great to have you back.
I know. Good evening, everybody. I just couldn't
Who's
resist. I just couldn't resist bashing those Aussies and putting the foot in. I told you it was going to be predictable.
See, Paul was being really kind. I was trying to be diplomatic, and now you're just going to the further extreme.
Well, I did tell you, stats don't lie. The reality is Super Rugby Aotearoa on average has about 4.5 to 5 minutes more ball live in play. And look, the Reds are probably a little bit caught on the hop after having a big final, but really, against us Highlanders, and the Highlanders weren't even playing good footy today. They just got smoked, 40 points to 19.
Yeah, I mean, look, early on, obviously, we saw that the problem one of the problems that the Reds were going to have with their rookie scrum half passing it into the legs of one of their less experienced locks. Just a bit of a comedy of errors there, letting the Highlanders in early. Look, he showed good composure to come back and score that try and to play relatively okay for a rookie, but he did again have another player get in his way and very nearly pass into another forward. They were just disjointed early on with all those changes, I think.
That's so funny. That's like this, like what happened there in that first Otago try is Highlanders try. First Highlanders try was what we've been coaching on Wednesday night with the under 10 McCalls is like, get out of the halfback's way.
Well, guys, what I have to say is from a coaching point of view, I mean, the Reds just way too predictable. They play this 1-3-3-1 attack pattern. Everything they attack, they exit. So very predictable, and that's what pressure does. What actually happened to the Reds? The best example I can give you is, it was like trying to run at a horse race meeting somewhere out in the Wop-Wops, And all of a sudden, when you come to the big city, when you're running against the faster horses, everything is 100 times faster, and the pressure just really gets to you. And that's actually what happened to the Reds. And if you look at some of the exit plays, it looked aimless and it looked very comedic, club rugby almost like.
But
I
I have to.
agree. Look, I'm not sure about club rugby or aim. No, I think they had a plan for their exit play. They just the Highlanders
plan
just
was
totally nullified
stupid.
it, and it worked. Didn't work.
Their plan was stupid.
Yeah.
Their plan was
I
up and
wouldn't-
unders from the 22. And then Hegarty in the second half with about 20 minutes unleashes a monster boot upfield that bounces into touch. And then, like, for the whole game, they're trying to put up and unders up from their own 22. That was stupid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was going to say they wasn't aimless. There was an aim. It was just wrong. It was a bad. It was just a bad plan.
It was
Well, look,
exactly. It was a bad plan. Exactly. Yeah.
if they were playing like a club side from Otago, I'm sure it would have worked. But when you step it up to first class of Super Rugby, like I said, everything is 100 times faster. The pressure is really on you, and I think the Reds, I hate to say this, they just look a little bit physically underdone, and they just didn't have that fitness, especially in the contact zone. They just got absolutely hammered.
I was going to say, I mean, like, from watching both the Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby Gold, it's like the intensity in those two competitions was higher than what we saw tonight. There's like, they seem to like bashing up their mates more than they're like coming and playing across the Tasman, so to speak.
I think obviously we know there's a whole bunch of change to the Reds, but also you look at that Highlanders team and the number of players that are missing through injury, etc. as well. They didn't go. They started with pretty much, and then also obviously off-field issues with Frizzell. But there are a lot of players down on their first choice. They're probably missing 7-8 players from their first choice team there. So yeah, you've got two semi B sides going head to head, and yeah, the intensity is going to be down.
And with the number of injuries that the Highlanders have, and they tried their best to injure Pari Parkinson again as well.
Dropping him at the line out, yes.
Yeah, look, I have to agree. The intensity was just a little bit lackadaisical, and there were times I think it looked like one of those Charlie Chaplin silent movies. No one was really interested. And also keep in mind, the Highlanders, they didn't take some very easy shots at goal, so they probably left a good, 9 to a dozen points on the field, particularly in that first half, where when they were quite erratic. So I was quite surprised. I was a little bit worried, I have to say, because all these things right at the beginning, they tend to come and bite you in the backside. But the Reds were that poor, they just got absolutely blown off the park.
Well, yeah, but in saying that, were you surprised with that 10 minutes, basically 10 or 15 minutes at the start of the game, when it looked like the Highlanders were actually in trouble and the Reds, were basically everything was working for them in that first 10 minutes. Although I suppose you'll turn out, although they got one try, they probably didn't take advantage of the position that they did have their early days.
Yeah, that's right. But the one thing I have to counter to that is that it was very predictable. As I said, their attacking pattern, you could read it a mile away. It's what most club sides here in Auckland do, the 1-3-3-1. And because they don't necessarily hit that ball at depth, they can't really get that front foot ball, and they can't get those tackle busts. But when you actually had a look at how the Highlanders were carrying, they were actually getting the ball at pace.
Yep.
And that's what were causing all those tackle busts.
Carrying with momentum, isn't they? Whereas the Highlanders are basically looking, they make the Highlanders defense, Red made the Highlanders defense look good, and B, it's just like you're watching the game thinking, geez, you're passing a ball to a man in a bit worse position than yourself.
Look, you saw that. I mean, the Highlanders made 161 tackles. They only missed 9. 95% tackle percentage there. So that's very, as you say, it looked like a very good defense. Now, whether that's because it was a very good defense or whether it's because of just being run at and therefore they just kept falling over you, is a different ballgame. Whereas the Reds made 124 tackles but missed 25, and that led to 8 clean breaks by the Highlanders and to only 2 by the Reds, and one of those was probably via a forward pass because he got called back. So that you're going to end up with that kind of scoreline with those kind of stats.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the Reds would have been better off actually seeing if they could got a backup second 15 from St. Kitts somewhere, because those boys I know can at least tackle, get a bit lower. Again, guys, I have to question one area. I'm going to be very critical. One of the reasons for the Reds missing so many tackles, terrible tackle technique, just far too upright, going around aiming for the ears.
I'm starting to. I know they're professional rugby players, but I'm starting to get a picture in my head where this is all coming from. To be honest with you, when you coach a bunch of 10-year-olds and you keep ad nauseum telling them you're tackling too high, and absolutely nothing changes, even in a practice session, and when you're showing them at numerous times. Unfortunately for us, I think, especially in this country, when you look at the Reds with Queensland, New South Wales, the areas where rugby's played, rugby league's big game, right? And a lot of these guys are watching rugby league. And where do they tackle in rugby league? They don't tackle low. They only tackle high. And then a second man will come in low. And I think a lot of these kids are watching that. And that's where they're getting their tackle technique. It's ingrained in their head. And it's just so bloody hard to turn around, because it's like in rugby, you tackle around the guts is your best option.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I mean, there's a trial happening here in New Zealand at the moment with 8 different provinces. It's part and parcel, hand in hand with what I'm doing with Safe Tackle Framework. It's called a tummy tackle. So tackle around the puku. It's called Get Hungry. So we're trying to change the behaviors.
I'll use that.
And so one of my coaching aids is I actually have a roll of tape. It's called Safe Tackle Tape. All I do is I take the tape off and I put it at the sternum and I tell the kids tackle below the line. So I think that's what needs to actually happen with these senior players. And I have to say, we know that Sio Tompkinson is a perennial candidate for going in high and nasty. So one of the ways to actually change this behavior is to actually coach it out of them. Because if we can learn bad behavior, we can unlearn it. So
it takes a long time, though, isn't it? It's hard.
Yeah, it is. And it's only a matter of time where we're going to see a very nasty injury in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman with one of these players going very high, and someone's going to either lose their teeth or someone's going to get very badly knocked out on live television.
Yeah, look, it's the tackle thing was bad. Look, we know that it has to get lower. We've seen players die from this kind of thing, both in amateur rugby and also professional rugby in Japan. So look, we need to get it. We need to get these head shots out. We need to move on from that now. As you say, Ashwin, the Reds had a good 10 minutes early on. They came back well from giving away that early try. And with 2 tries in the first 5 minutes, thought, hey, this could be a high-scoring affair that's going to be with both sides going ding-dong. But after that, really, the Reds struggled. We saw Ash Dixon dash over to get a try. And then a lot of kicking in behind by the Highlanders, particularly in that first half, looking for space. Now, Bella, from a coach point of view, are they looking to get advantage, or are they looking to force the Reds to kick it out so they can attack off a line out? What do you think is the reasoning behind that kicking?
Yeah, I think Reds are very poor with their exits. So one of their tactical plans would have been that they would exit quite poorly. And then the Highlanders go to their set piece, which is their strong suit, being the line-out try. One thing I have to say is, one thing I noticed in the first half, what the Reds didn't do enough was attack the short side and stack that short side with numbers where the Highlanders were thin. They did it, but they did it in the last 5 minutes of the game. And the Highlanders were quite savvy and they were onto it. Largely because, everyone was kind of a bit tired and shot, and they were just kind of, loading up the short side anyway. So that was a tactical blunder. And especially in the first 10 minutes when they were hot, they should have really attacked that short side, put more numbers, got some of the bigger boys to carry at pace. They didn't do that. And of course, their exits were very, very poor.
I can't remember one big run from Tupou tonight. He just didn't set himself in a position to run onto the ball and run on hard. Obviously this into Paul's explanation and the big final last week, mentally it didn't feel like he was on that field.
Yep.
Yeah, look, he's one of those guys. He's either hot or cold. When
he's
really
hot and cold, yeah.
And also he needs to get into the game nice and early. He didn't do that. I think with guys like Tupa, you got to start him. You got to give him that.
I was just going to ask you that question. Yeah.
You got to start guys like that because and then especially first up in the campaign, you're better off telling him, look, big man, empty your tank. 50 minutes, 60 minutes, you're off. You just give it everything you have. And particularly when Reds had that first good 10, 15-minute block, it's a no-brainer. So I think tactically they were just terrible, and they just made it even worse for themselves by playing even worse. And the Highlanders, all they had to do is just wait for it, bide their time, and they just destroyed them.
I actually think, just coming back to the kicking game, I was like, something that I sort of think, there's actually a place for it with the defensive lines and the way that they come up. I know you usually have your halfback going in behind the defensive line to cover those, but the thing tonight was that the accuracy of the Highlanders kicks in behind, the weighting of those kicks was perfect. 2 kicks basically just nearly sort of slowing down just before the try line, so the Reds player having to take the ball, and then he was driven over the line, 5-meter scrum, so the weighting of their kicks, and so basically the execution of their kicks was spot on. But I think there's even against the championship side like the Crusaders, when you've got a massive defensive effort coming in from them, there's that opportunity to put those little kicks in behind and have a good chasing line, good weighting of the kick, and you'll put pressure on that opposition. It's about execution.
I think what we're seeing from Mitch Hunt, aren't we, is that he's very good at that, and that's why he's being picked at 10 ahead of Iwani, even when Iwani is fit.
One of the criticisms I have to highlight, particularly in the Australian teams, and particularly how they play in their attack shapes, is that they're not very good at attacking from depth. They love to play this very flat attack. And the thing with that is, if you don't carry hard and if you don't make line busts, you just get shunted back and you just go side to side. Whereas if you look at the Kiwi sides, they're very good at attacking from depth. Now, if we rewind back, say, 20, 25 years, particularly those Brumby sides, the likes of George Gregan and David Knox at first by and Stephen Larkham, they were very good at attacking and creating plays at depth. And that is a skill which is significantly diminished in the other side of the Tasman. And now they're paying the price, because when you're not attacking from depth, and if you don't have good, what I call static carry strength, you're just going to get absolutely hammered. And today was the perfect example.
Yeah, as you say, it was a comfortable lead at 26-12 on some, which was at with about 10 minutes to go. And then, as you say, those extra 5 minutes of ball in play that the Kiwis are used to, rather than the Aussie sides, meant that it blew out towards the end with 2 tries in that last 10 minutes. Vunivalu, though, coming on, scoring 2 tries, showing his NRL skills out on the wing there for jumping up and collecting it. But we're going to need, obviously, good to get 2 tries there. We're going to need more of an all-round game from him, aren't we?
Yeah, look, that's the thing for me, is the fact is that, he had 2 spectacular St. Kitts finishes that he did there. But, the reality is that when you look at the all-roundness of his game, it's not there at all. There's major gaps in his game. He's gonna, I think, Nocturnal saying that Rennie would have liked the finishing ability of Vunivalu, but it'd be a major risk putting him on up against an All Black side with some of the gaps that he's still got defensively, as well as just in general attack.
Look, it's his first season in rugby union after
a big gap,
which it takes time, as we saw with I've gone blank as to the guy now who went over to England and failed. Didn't make the Rugby World. Oh, he did make the Rugby World Cup, but didn't really play well. Anyway, doesn't really matter.
Not Ben Teo.
No, not Ben
Teo.
No.
Right out of the NRL.
Yeah, out of the NRL, an English guy. There's 3 brothers.
Oh, English guy, Burgess.
Sam Burgess. There we go.
Samuel Burgess. Yeah.
No, he was never going to make it. That was just a bizarre thing. But that's another topic for another day.
Well, you need more time. Punivai came on, played decent as well.
Everybody did at the end of the day for the Highlanders, didn't they? Really? Even Kane Hamilton played decently for the Highlanders. Oh, did he get on?
No, I don't think he did he?
I didn't notice myself, I have to say.
I don't think
That's one of the most bizarre things in the Highlanders setup is that obviously with Fakatava and the way that he's played, obviously prior to injury, he started or he got severe minutes, he got quality minutes on. Hamilton, ever since he's been at the Highlanders, has always been the 5-minute guy, or 2 minutes even. Bizarre.
Look,
there's a massive drop-off.
But as you say...
There's a massive drop-off. Let's be honest. There's a massive drop-off.
I don't think he actually got on today. I must say I didn't notice him. Or did he get on like last 3 minutes or something?
The stats say he made 3 passes. So yeah, so he was on for, as you say, the last 3 minutes.
Last 3 minutes, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was a bit of a guesstimate, to be frank. So
which I think shows bad coaching by the Highlanders. Look, you're going to need Aaron Smith clearly. So when you're 2 scores up with 10 minutes to go, the game's in the bag. Get him off because he's just going to get injured.
I'll be honest with you. 2 scores isn't safe in rugby these days. I mean, you think about the disallowed try that the Reds scored. If that was given, that would have been an interesting last 15 odd minutes of rugby. Oh no! Again, I'm not saying that the Reds would have got up, but it would have still been a different level. Yeah, 7 points in it. 7 points in it. For a game that the Highlanders basically owned apart from 10 minutes of it, would have been very interesting.
Guys, the blueprint and formula to beat any Kiwi side, beat Super Rugby or Tesla, is you got to win those first 3 phases. You got to carry hard. You got to bust the tackle. And if you recall how the Pumas first up beat the All Blacks, they kicked their goals. They put the pressure. Those first 3 phases are really critical. And in defense, you can't let the ball go past those first 3 phases. So what's actually happening with particularly with the Australian defensive systems, is they're playing this very passive form of defense right at the beginning. And they're just leaking that ball out wide. And what happens is these Kiwi teams, they've got some very talented ball runners. The line bus start coming in, and then the floodgates open. So to me, it's a very simple fix. But that has to be coached, and you have to train in a certain way, because what worked across the ditch in Super Rugby AU is not going to work in this Trans-Tasman competition. If they keep doing this, they'll get absolutely barbecued. It's pretty simple. So I'll be very interested to see how the Brumbies defend first up against the Crusaders. So Reds, if you're watching this, make sure that you dominate those first 3 phases in defense or in attack. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's going to be a very long, forgettable Super Rugby Trans-Tasman competition for you.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the Reds. The Reds have got the Crusaders up next weekend over there in Australia. So really tough start for the Reds in this one. Then they have the Chiefs at home, the Blues at home, and the Hurricanes away. So I think weeks 3, 4, 5, I think they'll be more competitive. But unfortunately, that means they're going into week 3 with 2 losses on the bounce already, which doesn't do well, and it's game over. So yeah, it's I think this result effectively probably told us that we're going to see 2 New Zealand sides in the final, because the New Zealand sides don't play each other. They will get the easy wins over the Tars and the Rebels, and there are just no easy wins for the Reds and the Brumbies against the New Zealand side. So not a great way to start. I think the organisers really messed this up in their opening schedule. They should have given the Reds and the Brumbies as easy a game as possible to try and get an early win on the board to keep interest in the tournament.
But when was the draw done? See, I suppose, I don't know, when was the draw done? Was the draw done when they knew that the Reds and Brumbies were going to be in the final?
I could have told you in January the Reds and the Brumbies were going to be in the final. We knew. Yeah. Okay,
well, they were last year, weren't they? They were last year.
They were last year.
As far as the scheduling goes, it couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of teams. So I'm not complaining. I'm absolutely loving it. I just hope these Kiwi sides absolutely, step up every game and just put the boot into them. Absolutely smash these Australian sides. Which,
we know one team. Yeah,
and on form they should, and then hopefully we can take that onto the test form line, and we're going to see the same.
Well, there's one team that won't step up. We always play down to the opposition level, not play up to the opposition level.
I forgot that anomaly. Yes, there's always that.
Archie obviously refers to the Blues there.
Just on what Nocturnal said about the, Aaron Smith is absolutely crucial, or Fakatava is crucial to that backline and the Highlanders backline. The speed of the pass and the decision making gets that backline going. And I think, although we have we make a wisecrack about Kane and his ability, it's not about Kane and his ability. It's just the fact of how good Aaron Smith or Fakatava actually is. And that's why I also go back to Fakatava is easily, if he wasn't injured, above TJ Perenara in the picking order for the All Blacks as well.
Big shout. And we'll see if one of the Hurricanes, if one of the Hurricanes players do happen to somehow get injured, to allow TJ to join in, to make it into the Hurricanes squad, because he has to wait for an injury before he can get into that squad. Now he's back, and he's back when he's back from Japan in a couple of weeks.
He's got. Hang on. Is he back in a couple of weeks? Is he?
He's already finished his play in Japan. His side didn't make the final, so I'm guessing he's back and in quarantine currently. Is my guess.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because if he still hasn't back, then by the time he's back, does quarantine, it'll be too late anyway.
Well, that's what I mean.
So
I think he's in quarantine currently, but I don't know that for certain. It makes sense. He was.
Makes sense.
Guys, not sure there's much more to say about this one. But the next up, we have the Waratahs versus the Hurricanes. That one is looking at the Waratahs' form in Super Rugby AU. That is going to be a one-sided affair, unfortunately. But we'll be staying up for that one. Do join us on Sunday evening at 8 p.m. We'll review all 5 of the games. And I'll be back tomorrow with, we'll see who wants to jump on with me after the Crusaders versus the Brumbies for post-match reaction to that game as well. Any final points, boys?
No, it's just like I have to admit, coming on to today is like for this today's show, it's just like what are we going to talk about? Because it's almost predictable, wasn't it? It's like it's going through the motions a little bit in the game. Did it feel that way? I don't know. To me, it just felt I was just sitting there going through the motions of watching a game.
As I say, because of the short turnaround, because of the final last weekend, to a certain degree, and I think the next game definitely between the Tars and the Hurricanes, I think we are going to see a game that we're just going through the motions for. I'm not sure how much people will, how much attention we'll be paying during the second half. We'll have to wait to see. Yeah,
the other thing I gotta say is it'll be interesting to see how the contracted All Blacks, how their minutes get managed. Because today Aaron Smith I thought had a bit of a lengthy spell, and maybe they could have pulled him a bit earlier.
Do they have to manage the minutes? Because they need minutes. They do.
Yeah, they definitely do. It's all part of the contract. It's all part of high performance. So it'll be very interesting to see how they. I mean, all this would have been predetermined. And interestingly enough, the head coaches of the respective franchises, they actually have very little say in it. Believe it or not, it always comes from.
Hey, don't worry. There might be a new players' union soon anyway, so new agreements for the players.
Well,
that's a Tuesday conversation.
Or maybe the New Zealand Rugby Players Association will take their players away from New Zealand Rugby and set up their own league. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Maybe like
come in with the cash.
Yeah, maybe like Kerry Packers League. Donald Trump will start a special league up in America. All the All Blacks go there.
Make rugby great again.
Donald Trump has tried this in rugby. He's tried it in WWE. It hasn't worked a couple of times. He's good at losing money in these things. So,
who knows? Arthur Anderson might reinvent themselves and come and be the naming rights sponsor. Enron might come out of. Who knows? Anything is possible. It's just look. Let's save the dagger for Tuesday. I have some very strong opinions about this. Especially if you, the players' union, if you're watching here.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, guys, there you go. Join us on Tuesday at 8 p.m. for the Driving More Show. I think we've decided what one of the topics is going to be. And listen to Boa have a chat about the Rugby Players Association. Now, look, let's just make this very clear, folks. So all opinions expressed here are Boa's own personal opinions, not those of the official New Zealand Sports Radio. So don't sue us for what he says. Sue him directly, please. Thank you.
I'm gonna seek legal assistance from the Papakura. Probably go to the Papakura City Council building or something and say, hey, I might need some legal help. Oh well.
Okay, thank you everybody. It's been a laugh, and don't forget. So yeah, Waratahs versus Hurricanes next up.